Yogyakarta is one of the most famous cities in Java and also one of the most interesting. It is known across Indonesia as the cultural capital of the country, and it is also a university town that has a reputation for attracting artists and intellectuals who flock here to enjoy the art scene and the cafe culture. The city is also notable in Indonesia as it is technically a sultanate, and the royal family has been a fixture of the city since the 1700s. As a result, many of Yogyakarta's attractions relate to the royals, but, true to its learned roots, you will also find a wealth of museums here as well as workshops and handicraft shops. Yogyakarta is also known for its famous surroundings, as it sits at the base of Mount Merapi and is close to iconic sites in Java such as Borobudur and Prambanan temples. Many people combine a trip to Yogyakarta with a visit to these sites, but if you only have time to take in the main part of the city, then you can still enjoy a range of eateries, cafes, ancient monuments, and shopping venues. Let's explore some places to visit in Yogyakarta. Malioboro is the most famous street in Yogyakarta, and as such, you can't miss a trip here when you visit the city. The street is also usually visited at the same time as the Barangarjo market, and all along Malioboro Street, you will find items for sale such as clothes, batik fabrics, jewelry, sandals, and traditional Javanese arts and crafts. If you want to explore the market, then you will need to come here between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. But if you just want to enjoy the most famous artery in the city and its sights and sounds, then try to come after dark, when the street really comes alive. If you are feeling hungry, then you can also buy a range of delicious street food along the way. The Kraton Kesultanan Yogyakarta Hadiningrat is probably the most famous attraction in Yogyakarta and is simply another name for the royal palace. The Sultan and his family still reside here, although you can visit the Kraton Museum, where you can learn more about the royal family, as well as get an insight into traditional Javanese art and culture. If possible, try to time your visit so that you are in the area around 9 a.m., as there are cultural shows held here every day. Wandering through the grounds, you'll admire intricately decorated buildings with golden ceilings and colonnaded exteriors. Don't forget to check out the display of gifts received by the Sultan from world leaders. As well as the famous Kraton or Royal Palace, no trip to Yogyakarta is complete without a visit to Taman Sari, which is also often referred to as the Taman Sari Water Castle. The castle is located to the southwest of the Royal Palace and would have been extremely grand in its time and made up of a network of pools, streams, and royal buildings for the enjoyment of the Sultan and his family. Nowadays it has fallen into disrepair, and much of the water palace is gently crumbling, although this adds to the experience, and you can spend an afternoon wandering around the graceful ruins which date from the 1700s. You will also find a section of underground tunnels which are not to be missed, and you can take a guided tour for a small fee or simply go it alone. The beautiful yet terrifying Mount Merapi is the perfect tourist attraction for adventurous travelers. This very active volcano in Indonesia has erupted 68 times since 1548. Dare to hike the mountain to shoot spectacular photos while grooving on amazing scenery. A ticket booth is available before the village of Silo, and it is the only way to hike to the summit of the mountain. Most climbers start their hike at 1 a.m. to be able to reach the summit by sunrise at 5:30 a.m. A number of tour operators run jeep tours to this volcano. The jeep tour will also take you to an interesting museum that commemorates the most recent eruption. The museum records all details of the eruption and gives tourists an insight into the devastating effects of the event. Yogyakarta is a city covered in museums, and one of the best of these is the Sono Budoyo Museum, which is a collection of Javanese art on display. If you want to know more about art from the region, you can take a tour of the museum and visit galleries dedicated to Indonesian puppets, masks, weaponry, and textiles. The museum faces a courtyard that is covered in Hindu architecture, and you will find ornate carvings and statues aplenty. One of the highlights of the museum is the puppet shows that also take place here. Yogyakarta is known as the arts and crafts capital of Indonesia, and if you want to get your hands on, then the best way to do this is to sign up for a handicraft workshop. Just some of the choices include a leather workshop, where you will be taught how to fashion items like a purse from leather, or you can learn Indonesia's most famous textile technique called batik. This involves making a pattern on the fabric with wax before dyeing the fabric a range of colors, and you can also buy colorful batik pieces all over the city. The best place to sign up for a batik course is in the neighborhood that surrounds the Kraton or Royal Palace. When you type Yogyakarta into Google, these iconic bell-shaped stupas are what pop up in the top search result. And for good reason, this Buddhist temple complex is spectacular, especially in the morning light. Visiting Borobudur temple should be at the very top of your list of things to do in Yogyakarta. You can book a tour or get there on your own, depending on your travel style and your budget. Approximately 40 kilometers northwest of Yogyakarta and 86 kilometers west of Surakarta, Borobudur is located in an elevated area between two twin volcanoes, Sundoro Suming and Merbabu Merapi, and two rivers, the Progo and the Ilo. According to local myth, the area known as Kedu Plain is a Javanese sacred place and has been dubbed the Garden of Java due to its high agricultural fertility. During the restoration in the early 20th century, it was discovered that three Buddhist temples in the region, Borobudur, Pohon, and Mendut, are positioned along a straight line. A ritual relationship between the three temples must have existed, although the exact ritual process is unknown. Wondering what to see in Yogyakarta when sorting out your itinerary? Be sure to include the impressive Prambanan temple in your plans. This massive and impressive Hindu complex comprises several smaller temples set around the main cluster. Each of the temples is slightly different from each other and yet beautiful in its own way. This temple is a great example of Hindu architecture and attracts several histories and architecture lovers. The temple compound is located approximately 17 kilometers northeast of the city of Yogyakarta, on the boundary between Central Java and Yogyakarta provinces. The temple compound, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is the largest Hindu temple site in Indonesia and the second largest in Southeast Asia after Angkor Wat. It is characterized by its tall and pointed architecture, typical of Hindu architecture, and by the towering 47-meter-high central building inside a large complex of individual temples. Prambanan temple compounds originally consist of 240 temple structures, which represents the grandeur of ancient Java's Hindu art and architecture, also considered as a masterpiece of the classical period in Indonesia. Prambanan attracts many visitors from around the world. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit notification bell. See you in the next video.